Good morning. Happy Sunday. This is day 2, bonus day 2. So today I'm going to be telling my story. And I wanted to just remind you guys that today's the last day at 9 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Tomorrow for the last bonus day together. We get to be on Zoom and it's at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So that link will go out and I'm very excited to see your faces. Okay, so I always am like, where do I start with my story? Because it's a little bit of a made-for-TV movie, and I'm going to talk a little bit fast because I want to get to some parts that I would love to share with you and encourage you. And some of you might be feeling, afraid or despair, hopeless. And I think that when we hear other people's story, it's like a banner over us that like they can do it, I can do it, and I've done it and I'm doing it, and you can do it. With the right tools, our body has the incredible capacity to heal, and we were so fearfully and wonderfully made. And I know that God has a plan for your life and for your relief. So I was born in California. I'm the youngest of 5 children, and I was really healthy as a child. The only thing that happened that was significant was my oldest sister would read to me when I was younger, and she would play with my hair while she was reading to me. So nice. And then she was like, "Mom, can you come here?" And there was a tick that had bitten me in like right at the top of my spine. And but no problems there. And then in 6th grade, I got really bad mono. I got really bad Epstein-Barr. And some people, have a little sore throat. They continue going to school. Not a big deal. I could not get out of bed. I could not get out of bed. And I always had neurologic things that would come up whenever I got a cold. I had to get really bad headaches and I'd get dizzy. And this was no different. So I was really struggling in 6th grade. I was a gymnast at that time. I was competing. That was my identity. I was pumped. I don't know. Did you guys do sports when you were younger? There's this piece of you that becomes so invested in it. And I was a dreamer and I was loved it. Gymnastics made me come alive. And I was I want to go to the Olympics, and I had it all planned out. And it's really fun because my daughter, who's 12, she's doing gymnastics now too. And we're actually traveling for her next week. And it's really fun to be together with her in that and see how much she loves it and whether or not she does it for very much longer or not. It's just fun to see how people get lit up with movement and participating in life with their full expression of their bodies. And so anyway, I pushed myself really hard. I was pretty driven. And there's a story that my mom likes to tell of the first time. This was in the lower levels of gymnastics. But the first time the coach asked us to do 100 sit-ups. And the coach asked our whole class to do it as conditioning afterwards. And I was the only one to finish. And I was so pumped that I came home and I did 100 more. So that's the kind of commitment and drive and persistence that I have that I bring to my clients. I want you to get better. I want you to get better, and I want to support you in that journey, and I want to empower you in that journey. So that same tenacity, I think, is something that I still have today. But the Epstein-Barr really was tricky, and I had a hard time healing from that, and I ended up having all these complications with it. And I ended up having to quit gymnastics because I was starting to have allergic reactions to the chalk, the dust in the air. And then I went on to high school. I ended up homeschooling for middle school because I couldn't really go to school. And then I went to high school, to a public high school, and I was like, great, there's sports here. there's ways that I can really apply myself academically. So I was like, okay, excellence. I'm going for excellence. I'm going for the Olympics in high school in that spirit. And I got Epstein-Barr again, pushing myself so much. And I missed so much school. Just really struggled to make it there. And my junior year of high school, I had been doing really well. And then my junior year, I just was still having a really hard time. In the first 8 weeks of the quarter, I missed 6 of them. So I was just constantly getting bowled over by any Tom, Dick, and Harry virus that was coming around. And I just was so fatigued, and I was like, man, do I have Epstein-Barr again? Like, what is going on? And I really had I really had a lot of friends who were kind of like, what is wrong with you? Like, kind of like, you're being dramatic, or why can't you show up for my birthday party, or, just like a lot of judgment. And that was kind of tough because I was like, I'm dying to this, I can, and then I started falling a lot. Like, my legs just kept giving out, and I needed help walking to the bathroom, and my head pressure was insane, and I was in a lot of pain. And then the other thing is that, so that was 1999, January of 2000. Then I became somebody who I couldn't hardly move, and I was getting worse, not better. And so we went to the hospital, and I, again, was hardly moving, but I was struggling to, like, be in the hospital, like all the bright lights, all the beeping of the monitors, all the people coming in to check on you. And I think my nervous system just collapsed at that moment, and was like, I can't. And they also kind of messed up some tests, like a lumbar puncture and some other things that they didn't coordinate very well, and botched mechanically. So I didn't become like fully quadriplegic until I was in the hospital. And I also started having more and more seizures while I was there. I was super sensitive to sound, super sensitive to light. Everything, and any way that my brain was getting information was like, no, I can't. I simply can't. And so at that point, like, the doctors didn't know what was going on, and they thought that I might be dying because I had, like, my organs were starting to fail. My body was not working. I stopped, like, digesting and eliminating. I stopped, really even caring about being alive because I was in so much pain. And I was like, let's get out of here. Like, for the love, like, let's get out of here. This is just making me worse. So basically the doctors sent me home with pain meds. Like, we don't know what is going on, but you have a virus in your spinal cord. And the other like traditional things in that realm, like Guillain-Barré or MS or meningitis, if you had to have 5 checked boxes for them, I'd have like 3 or 4. It wasn't a textbook case. So that was really hard because I just wanted somebody to be like, oh, this is what you have. This is no problem. It's going to be fine. And here's a magic pill. Just take this. You'll feel better tomorrow. And that's really what I was longing for. And that is not what happened. And the tricky part was my system was really sensitized, and I was really responding poorly to any medication. And I was having hallucinations. I was having breathing difficulties. I was having, like, all these terrible complications with the medications that they were giving me. So at one point I was like, no more. Like, I'd rather have the pain that's consistent, that's predictable, right? It's safer to the brain, even though it's agony, than, these spiders crawling all over me. The hallucinations were just really frightening to me and very unsettling. So I was like, I'm done. I'm done with that. So we started going to, specialist after specialist, and there was a nurse practitioner who was working with us with nutrition, and she started doing raindrop therapy on me. I don't know. You can put in the chat. Do you guys know what raindrop therapy is? It's a way to use essential oils to layer on the spine different plant medicines. And I remember just being like crazy painful. The burn was so bad, and I was getting like welts and blisters all up and down my spine because I think it was just drawing out the virus and the little things that were bothering me. So in retrospect, losing all my function and having those seizures and having the organ damage, having the nerve damage, I think was a combination of a lot of things. But one of those things I think was chronic, severe neurologic Lyme disease. But we didn't know that then, and I always test negative for Lyme. It's so crazy because you have about a 50% false negative. There's some newer tests that have come out, but I haven't done them because why? But the period of time, there was like 4 months that we were waiting to get into the UCSF or Stanford hospitals to get more opinions. And so we were doing a lot of nutritional things. I was doing colonics. I was doing like high dose vitamin C, anything to help with the virus. So we were doing that. And then by the time we got to the hospital, to the other hospital, they had redid all the tests. And they said, well, we think that you had a virus in your spinal cord, but we think it's gone. We just think it's just the damage that remains. So they sent me to this inpatient rehab place, and I started doing physical therapy, occupational therapy very intensively. And my mom had been my main caretaker, and she basically like collapsed from exhaustion when I went into this facility. And so I really wanted to walk for her, like for her birthday. That was my goal, to make it to June 17th and be able to walk for her. So that was my new Olympics, right? And when I went into the rehab place, I also had like pots and stuff like that. So I had a really hard time. Even if someone sat me up, I couldn't sit up on my own, but if someone sat me up, I would pass out. So I remember my very first assignment was to adjust the hospital bed so it was up at an angle and keep a conversation going and not pass out. That's my first assignment. And I just, worked really hard, and I was the youngest person in there. It was a lot of stroke patients and TBIs. And the nurses were so sweet. They would come and like take their breaks in my room and just chat with me. And it's really hard to be away from home because my mom in particular was, my main caretaker. And so now all these strangers are trying to help me, and they don't know how to, be quiet enough. So it was just a new learning experience. But I also remember, starting to get some gains, and that was so exciting, like to be able to not pass out, to be able to sit up for the first time was incredible. It was such an incredible feeling. And I played guitar for my youth group, and the OT found out, and she's like, oh, okay, that's what we're going to do. So we started playing guitar to try and like get my postural muscles up. And one of the goals was to eat in the dining hall, where all the clicking of the silverware and the conversation and the noise was so overwhelming to my nervous system. And I thought, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do that. But I did it. And I remember the first time I was exhausted. I was totally wiped out. And I was back in my room, and I was like, this is amazing. Good job, body. And in the whole time when I wasn't functioning at all, I would disassociate, and I'd daydream about, playing ultimate frisbee with my brother, or doing cartwheels on the beach or something like that. And while, in gymnastics and in high sports performance, they use a lot of visualization to train the nervous system that like, this is how you want your performance to look. And I didn't think about it like that. I just didn't want to be in my body because it was so uncomfortable. But I think that did help me to be able to kind of recover pretty quickly. So I'm going along. June 17th is coming, and my whole family comes up to the hospital to have like a picnic right outside for my mom's birthday. And the plan was they were going to wheel me out, and they were going to help me stand up, and then I was going to walk to her. So she closed her eyes, and then they helped me stand up. And it was, very emotional, but I took a couple steps and like literally fell into her arms. So June 17th was a really important day to me, because that was, a goal that I had made, but it was also like so special to show my mom that I was going to be okay for her birthday present. And I'd been working so hard for that. And then the rehab process was tough, and there was no support. Remember yesterday we talked about those different columns, like the stress, the space, the signals, the support. There wasn't like nutritional support. There wasn't really emotional support. So I was just pushing my body to do the things that I wanted it to do without really repairing the reason why it had stopped working, and without giving it new functional building blocks to work with. So the interesting thing was that I relapsed. So I pushed myself really hard, and I then, my body was like, I can't do it anymore. You've pushed me too hard, and I don't have enough currency to work with. And then I felt so depressed at that time, and they put me on Zoloft, and in a couple of weeks I had gained 50 pounds, and I had become so emaciated because I wasn't using any muscles. So I was like, okay, this is even harder to move now. And I'd never been heavy in my life. I'd always been very athletic, and so that was like mentally really difficult for me, and to have no control over that was really hard. And then we spent more time, going to specialist after specialist, trying to get more information about what we could do to help me. Because at this point I wasn't fully quadriplegic, but I was not very functional. And I'm 17 now, and I am really not wanting to go to the bathroom. Like, I don't want a bedpan. I just want to go to the bathroom by myself. Okay. And so what I would do, there was this, it was sort of like a planter with wheels. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's an ab dolly, like an infomercial thing from the 90s, or I guess 2000. But you could like use it. I would slip off my bed, like just slide off my bed onto this ab dolly and kind of just swim forward on this wheelie, and that would carry the weight of my torso mostly, and it would take me a long time to get to the bathroom. And then the way that the bathroom was, there was like a counter right by the toilet, so somebody would help me onto the toilet, and then I would like lay on the on the counter, and then I'd like fall down onto the ground and have to rest for a long time. And then I would like crawl back on the ab dolly and slowly make my way back to my bed. So that was my life for several months. And then we found another type of therapy that somebody had recommended, and it's called integrative manual therapy. So we flew to a clinic, and I think I mentioned on one of the days that the intensives that they had in the integrative manual therapy clinic, there's like a bunch of massage tables and a bunch of therapists working on their individual patients. So that's what we went to, was a intensive, and all the greatest therapists were there. And the main lady who developed this work, her name's Sharon Weisselbusch Mateo. She's since passed away, but I got a wonderful opportunity to be treated by her, to be trained by her. So she really gave me a lot of amazing gifts. So they said, we think we can help you. And no one had ever said that to us yet. So we were just tears down our cheeks. And we went home, and they gave us a bunch of homework to do. So we were doing it, and I didn't really like it. I was like, what are they doing? I don't understand like how this is working or what this is accomplishing. But my mom thought I looked better. And so, that was the first gain, or the first glimmer of hope that we had in a year. So we pressed on, and by the end of the second time, they had me standing up. Like, I had a bunch of, it's like belts, they're PT belts, so people can grab on to your waist. So I think I had 4 people holding me up, and my vision like I started to pass out, but I didn't pass out. So that was so exciting. And to be able to start to see some gains again was really encouraging. So we stuck with them, and we did everything that they told us to do. And I started getting better. And Sharon had me start swimming, because I didn't have to be up to gain muscle or move my body. I could be horizontal, and the gravity was less in the water. So that was a great a great friend to me. Water became a great friend to me. And I would go to the YMCA. My mom would take me every day and wheel me out and like dump me in the pool. And then, I couldn't really swim per se the first few times, but then I started to be able to go one length of the pool and then there and back. And then I would add a lap every day. And it was so sweet because the older age group was there, and there was like a water aerobics class right before I would go to swim laps, and they would all like cheer for me, and it was very sweet. So fast forward, I'm walking now, and I'm doing well, and I actually am starting to be able to even walk without a cane. The fatigue and the organ damage took longer, but the function was there. And I talk about the bank account body, and I was definitely in that. So for a long time, I could, put laundry in, or I could sit down and take a shower, or I could talk to my cousin on the phone or something like that. But I couldn't do all three because I would be so fatigued afterwards. I just had a low balance in my bank account. I just had to honor that and really work within my limits. And I didn't do a great job with that. I had to learn over and over again not to overdraw. The overdraft, man, the overdraft charge, it would get me every time. So I was learning about that to stay within my limits. And then I didn't want to be, all my friends had graduated high school. And when I was a junior, that's when I was the sickest, and they were like picking out prom dresses, and I was like, I don't know if I'm going to live or die. So there was a lot of disconnect relationally for me anyway. So it wasn't like a huge deal that they had left, but I was not, I felt like, I'm behind, so I decided to do junior college so I wouldn't have to be a high school senior for the 5th year. And so I did that. And I started out like barely able to make it to class, sitting up and learning at the same time. Whew, that was hard. I would be like laying on my desk by the end, and my mom would be there and helping me like walk back to the car, and she'd have a mattress in the back of the minivan, and I would lay down and she would give me snacks and stuff before my next class. So I'm doing all this therapy. I'm trying to work my way through school, but that was the fall semester, the start of the fall semester. And then by the spring semester, I was taking a dance class. So my function and my energy just continued to really improve. It was so exciting. And I ended up going away the following year to college at CU Boulder, which is just really close to where we live now. And I was so afraid. And I was trying to listen to my heart and listen to like where God wanted me to go. And that was not where I wanted to go per se. And so I was being really obedient, and they opened an integrated manual therapy center in Boulder. So that was like the only reason that I would even consider it, so I could have that support as I was going through school. But college turned out to be like an amazing experience for me. I also felt so blessed because the roommate that I got assigned as a freshman, she was on the rowing team. So she would go to bed really early, which is what I needed. And she would get up, go do her practice, and I would stay sleeping. And then I would have to come back, during the day and take a nap, or, I didn't party in college. It was all, just very, I made some really amazing relationships through my church, and it was so cool to continue to connect with them and grow in my health and grow. And I really didn't let a lot of people know what I had been through, because I just wanted to be like a different person. I didn't want to be the struggle bus rider. I wanted to just be a college student having fun and loving life. And so I did, I did have friends that knew, but for the most part, I didn't let people know that I was having migraines all the time, or that I was feeling awful when I would wake up in the morning. So I started to still continue to get better and better. And I wanted to go on the Camino de Santiago, which is a 500 150-mile backpacking pilgrimage through the southern part of France and the northern part of Spain. And this was something that was, they started doing it in the 9th century, and you walk a certain number of miles every day. You can choose how many miles you walk, but there's little hostels set up for the pilgrims that walk there. And I just was like, what wouldn't a quadriplegic do? So I wanted to walk 550 miles to say thank you to God for my health. And one of my very best friends, Grant, at the time was like, hey, if you want company, I'll do it with you. And that made my parents really happy because they didn't want me to do it by myself. And I was happy because, Grant was amazing, awesome. I loved him and as a friend. And then I was like very quickly into the journey. I was like, oh dear, I'm falling hard. And the day that we started the Camino was June 17th. So that was so fun to be able to take my first steps for my mom on her birthday years before, and then years later take my first steps on this journey of gratitude, of Thanksgiving, of like athletic ability to be able to walk that much. It was really meaningful. And then the following year, I got married on June 17th to Grant, who is just amazing person. And I'm just so grateful for him. And the other thing that happened in college, in Isaiah, in the Bible, there's that verse about exchange, about how God's going to exchange like beauty for ashes and joy instead of mourning. And when I was in that rehab hospital, my oldest sister, the one who found the tick, she gave me these like lavender Converse, and I wore those for my first steps. And I ended up using those in college because I became really interested in dancing and swing dancing. So I ended up having those as my dancing shoes. So quadriplegic shoes, first step shoes into dancing shoes. There's like so many different ways that exchange happened in my life. And there was a lot of struggle too. And it continued on, even though I was more functional. I was on a roller coaster. I would do too much. I would tank. I would be in bed for 2 weeks. I would try and work out. I would be in bed. So there was a lot of ways that there was things in my environment that were still, or activities that I was doing that my brain found really threatening, or that my body was still healing from. So that continued like that. In our early marriage, I got a concussion right before we got married, and I wasn't sure. And we moved from Colorado to San Francisco, where I was going to start working in the integrative manual therapy clinic and continue my education with them. So I was feeling awful. We were newlyweds. We were in a new city. It would have been so cool to go out and explore. And all I could do was like sit on the couch and sleep. So I didn't really understand why, but I was like, maybe it's the transition. Maybe it's, I'm still healing from the concussion, whatever. I don't know. But we went away. So we got married June 17th. Then November, we went away for Thanksgiving, and we lived fairly close to the ocean. And we always left the windows open. But when we went away, we closed the windows. When we came back, our place was covered in mold, covered. So I was like, oh, this is why I've been feeling awful. So I really had a long journey of mold toxicity to go through as well. So we moved out of there as fast as we could. And I was flying back and forth to the main school of integrative manual therapy, which was in Connecticut. And I was doing their programs and learning and loving it and starting to treat patients. And I was really enjoying life. I had my first son, and we just were doing the best we could. My husband was in grad school. Grant was in grad school also. So it was busy. It was busy time. And I pushed my body to limit, and there was so many ups and downs. And I ended up having, my daughter, another child, and I wasn't feeling awesome, but I was functional. And I decided with our friends, we went in and we co-owned a Ninja Warrior and parkour gym because I loved movement. I wanted to bring that to other people, and we were on the same mission with my brother as well. So that was really fun. My brother and my husband coached the Little Ninja program and taught the little kids parkour. And it's really cool because my oldest son, Caden, he's doing that too. That's his job. He's teaching parkour to other people. So that's really fun to see him thriving and doing that. But they wanted to go on the show American Ninja Warrior, and we had competitions at the gym all the time. I didn't participate a lot because it was really hard on my body, but I decided, yeah, I'll do it. Let's do it. So because of my gymnastics background, I didn't have to train a lot to be able to do some of the things that muscle memory, man, it's pretty awesome. And then we did end up we competed on American Ninja Warrior for 2 seasons, and I didn't do great. You don't have to look it up, but I had so much fun. It was like Olympics, and they invited Olympians to run the course. And it was like I was so excited to be next to them. And that was really, really fun for me. And I felt really empowered. However, I had a jaw surgery before the second season that I competed on, and I shouldn't have competed, but I did. And I actually went back into a wheelchair for a time after that. I could not walk very far. I had to really get a lot of support, and I was not doing good. I was not doing good. My nerves and all the things that had happened, did not like being overstretched, hanging on stuff they said no. the jury verdict was, let's not do that anymore. So I was kind of in this bad space, and my son was going to kindergarten. My daughter was in preschool, but he was really close to, we were really close to the kindergarten school, and we were close to the library. We were close to the grocery store. It was ideal, except I couldn't walk to anything. And I felt so I was so frustrated. I was so down in the dumps because I felt like I was failing as a mom, as a wife. I felt like I was holding my family back. I felt a lot of shame about pushing myself too hard. Why didn't I just know my limits? And I also just felt like this is not what I want. I can walk kind of. I'm not quadriplegic. There's a lot to be thankful for, but I want more. And so I started studying other things. And I also, there's a really sweet story from this time where I was starting to feel a little better, and I was like, you guys, I think I can take you to the library today. And that was 2 blocks away. And so we got the scooters because they loved the scooter, and my oldest son was 5 or 6 at that time. And my daughter was gone, and he just walked his scooter next to me. And I was like, don't you want a scooter? And he was like, no, I'm okay. And that was weird. That was weird for him to be slow. He's a very fast guy. He likes to be on the move. And I was talking to him, and it's like, don't you want to go on your scooter? He's like, no. And it came out that he thought that if I started not feeling well and I needed help going home, that he could put me on his scooter and push me home. I was like, oh my gosh. I felt really, at the time, I felt totally overwhelmed by that. I am putting too much burden on my family. But I think now I have a different relationship to that. And part of the journey was accepting that the journey that I've had, my kids have had, my husband has had, and that's changed them as well. And to this day, Caden is, and my kids are just so compassionate. They're really high energy and love doing stuff, but if they see somebody hurting, they have such a heart for them and can really slow down and attune to them and serve them and love them in that place. And, they wouldn't have had that ability if they didn't have lots of experience of me going up and down all the time and being inconsistent with what I was able to offer them, or how I was able to play for them. I remember asking Caden, or being like, Caden, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I'm in this spot again. And he was like, that's okay. He was like, you can just lay on the floor and play Legos with me. I was like, oh, okay. He just gave me permission to show up how how I was feeling. And that was laying on the floor was where I was at. So I was better, everything was doing better. And I still was having these ups and downs. So that's when the nervous system training came on the scene. And that's when I felt like my body was able to reevaluate like what was happening and have some stability and so it was sort of like a ball, like instead of ups, downs, like it got smaller, smaller. And the big lows and the big highs became more just like steady, predictable. Like you can wake up in the morning and know you're going to be able to get out of bed. How nice is that? Right? So that was really a wonderful time where I was gaining some ground and feeling more safety in my body, being able to be more in my body. And I was continuing to take lots of certifications and study more things. And I just had this real thirst for knowledge to help myself, to help my clients, and to be able to put some pieces together. So I studied a bunch of different things, and the inner restoration program is like the culmination of that. I put a lot of different things. It's a bouquet of healing methods that I found worked for me, but also like I tried them on a bunch of the clients that I had. And the sequence that I have things in is like what everybody needs, no matter what their diagnosis is. If people come in with Lyme disease, if they come in with back pain, headaches, like everybody needs these things as building blocks to get better. And that's what I put together in the inner restoration program and with the HOPE process, getting that nervous system to be harmonized, having less shock on a cellular level, having the ability to feel safe in your body, getting that organ communication going, getting those emotions that are holding you back to be more free, and allowing you to step into the new elevated identity that you're going to have, that you're going to need to work on to build this new version of yourself that isn't constrained, that isn't trapped in your body, that isn't frustrated, or isn't like missing all these business opportunities because you're not feeling well, that you're missing all these times with your family because you're not feeling well, that you can play Lego sitting up, that you can play, that you can walk to the library. And I love the way that God has used my story. And although the suffering was like many, many years and very, very long, I wouldn't trade it because it's made me who I am, and it gave me the drive to help other people and meet them where they're at. And I've had so many issues that I feel like I can really relate to a lot of people, and I have a heart for them. And I think that people deserve that compassion. I think you're worthy of having a guide who has already been there and knows what it's like to like feel awful as you start to get better, and you're starting to get better, but you still feel awful. And there's that weird tension place. And the inner restoration program is the way that I have compiled tools to give you so that you can do it on your own, and you have the ability to come back to them and share them and marinate in them in a way that gives you tools for life. This is not something that expires. These are tools that are going to get you feeling better today, tomorrow, 10 years, whenever you need them, they're there. So I love that it's so manageable, and all you need is your own two hands. So I am really excited for what God has next for you. I'm excited for the journey that he's taking you on. I would love to journey with you. I'd love to support you through the inner restoration program. And tomorrow we're having that last bonus day at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time over Zoom. And you can ask me questions about it. You can book a call if you want to. I think a lot of the questions that people have is like, okay, I understand that it worked for this person, but how is it going to work for me? And so if you want to ask that question, feel free. I'd love to help you with that. And then the other thing is that the replays for all the videos will be up until Tuesday, and Tuesday is the last day to sign up for the inner restoration program, this round of the inner restoration program. So you guys, thank you for hearing my story. I was really honored this year. I got to include my story in a book. a collaborative book with some other people. It's called Victim to Victory, and it was an international bestseller, which is pretty cool. And I love sharing my story on podcasts. I love sharing my story because it gives people hope. Like, if I can do it, you can do it. And I believe that. And I believe that your body's worth fighting for, and that the tide lifts all boats. And the boats are your symptoms. The boats are is your work, your business, your family, your community, and the tide is your nervous system. The tide is your body. If we can raise that up, raise that vibration, you're going to get better. I totally 100% believe that. So thank you for sharing my story. I'll see you guys tomorrow on Zoom, and happy Sunday.